Adelaide at the moment is witnessing an infrastructure boom for the next 10 years, the likes that South Australia has never seen before. So it was a great opportunity to have a chat with Chris and talk about how the role of the surveyors changed over the last 10 years and this challenge of this impending workload and what it means for surveyors here in Adelaide. So Chris Staak, welcome. Good to meet you.
Thanks, Joel. Thanks for having me.
So I guess place to start, tell us how you got into surveying.
Well, it's not a very glamorous story. I think most surveyors are actually the same, aren't they? Like, they just fall into the industry. And I was just a 17-year-old wondering what to do for the rest of my life. And look, a friend of mine was already doing it and he recommended it. I guess the rest is history. Yeah,
and do you remember your first project that you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, the first is always the one that sticks with you. It might not have been my true first, but it was probably my first major project. Yeah. And like, I was probably 21, straight out of university, and you walk into this major construction project with machines running everywhere, an office full of engineers. Yeah. It's pretty daunting, I would say, and also I guess mind-blowing. Yeah.
You're talking about all the services were quite the challenge in that first project.
Yeah, it's something that you don't think about, just in everyday life. The services that are running underneath the ground, but it's like, as a surveyor, it's one of the first things that you're exposed to on these big projects, and just like how complex and really it's an underground spaghetti network of cables running every which way. It was pretty eye-opening.
It sounds like these days for a construction company, managing services and not hitting them is probably one of the biggest threats to their profitability.
For sure. Like, service strikes in our world, I mean, I think every construction company is dealing with it. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, they like to point to surveyors if something happens. So look, there's a bit of a risk mitigation piece there. But I think Dial before he did came out with a stat that the cost of service strikes last year, the combined costs, so direct and indirect, but was across all of Australia was somewhere around $4.6 billion. So that's just it's a huge cost. It's a huge inefficiency, delays projects. It's bad news.
Yeah, and imagine that cost is probably going up every year, unfortunately, rather than down.
Well, these projects, we're probably more and more brownfield projects, working in areas where maybe when the services weren't installed, there wasn't much thought process behind the services. So, they just smack them down, lay them down, wherever they feel like it fits in. And maybe even the record keeping when those services were installed was pretty laxed. So it's certainly a constant battle that construction companies, but really surveyors, because we're at the forefront of that and that data.
And I imagine a lot of projects now are in more brownfield sites, more congested areas. There's probably a lot more utilities going in as well. So the risk of server clash compared to before, where it was lots of greenfield projects, it's probably...
Absolutely. Greenfield projects are a dream these days. More greenfield projects, please. But look, in South Australia, we're just about to deal with Torrens and Darlington, and that is 10 kilometres down the busiest road in the city, and it certainly is the most complex road for underground services. So it's going to be challenging over the next 8 years.
Yeah, because that project's got a huge budget as well. Right?
Huge budget. I think it's about $16 billion, which these projects are just getting bigger and bigger. And certainly for South Australia, for Adelaide, the biggest civil infrastructure project we've built here, probably civil infrastructure road project we've built here, is about $1 billion. So it's 16 and a half times the size in terms of cost. So yeah, it brings like a lot of opportunities, which everyone's looking forward to in the state, but it also brings a lot of challenges.
Yeah, it's good to see a mega project in Adelaide. It's always been the East Coast that sort of had all these crazy projects for the last 10 years.
We've been waiting our turn.
Yeah, very patiently. Yeah.
Very patiently.
Yeah.
Look, a lot of people in Adelaide, we've been talking about this project for 5 or 10 years now, so a lot of people in Adelaide are really looking forward to getting underway. And this is the last piece of the puzzle. It's the last piece of a bigger project, which is the North-South Corridor. And once this is complete, I think it will really change the way traffic flows in Adelaide. Yeah.
Mind you, coming from Sydney, I'd love to have the traffic issues of Adelaide, considering you're building this mega project to avoid what I think is quite a pleasant traffic on a peak hour.
It's all about perspective though, isn't it? Because I feel peak hour in Adelaide is pretty bad. So it's just, it's a big perspective piece.
Yeah, I'm fortunate too. I've got an office now in Manila, and when I visit there, the traffic there is an absolute nightmare. So it's just absolutely gridlocked for 3 hours in the morning and at night, so you just don't go anywhere. So all of a sudden, I also think Sydney's not so bad.
Yeah, well, it's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah. I guess the geography of Adelaide, you've really got the water on the east and then the hills on the right. Yep. So the sprawl really is north and south. So that corridor is really important for Adelaide.
Yeah. I'm going to get this figure wrong, but I think this last piece is taking out something like 22 traffic lights. The last 22 traffic lights. So it will, once it's completed, it'll be non-stop from north to south, which will be pretty phenomenal. And look, a lot of the freight, like everyone sort of leans towards, how their commute's going to look to get into work. But a lot of it's to deal with the freight issues, and that's a freight corridor running north to south. Yep. So bringing that freight off our metropolitan roads would be huge.
So imagine at the moment those trucks are going through the CBD.
Yeah, just adjacent to the CBD, but close enough. Yeah.
So Chris, do you want to tell us about your role at ESO?
Yeah, look, I'm lucky enough to have fallen into a job at ESO like straight out of university, which is pretty phenomenal. So that's a long time ago. But about 12 years ago, I started running the South Australian branch, and it was just me sitting in an office. And 12 years later, we've got a team of close to 40 people working on some of the state's biggest projects. It's pretty exciting where we are now, but it's also cool to just look back to see where we came from, all those years ago. We're lucky, ESO is a national company, so lots of good systems, policies, procedures already in place that we can leverage at the start of a branch. So certainly fortunate for that, but yeah, we're in a pretty good spot in South Australia now.
Tell us a little bit more about ESO as a company.
Yeah, so national company, we've got offices in most states of Australia. I think we're close to about 140 employees across the country. We work on major infrastructure projects, and a big focus of the business now is in the reality capture space. Reality capture is just like a fancy word for old school detail survey, probably using cool new tech to actually capture that data.
Certainly sounds a lot cooler.
Yeah, it sounds a lot cooler, doesn't it?
So picture to Gen Z. Yeah.
It's the buzzword. Digital and spatial and reality capture, I think, certainly buzzwords at the moment in the surveying industry for sure. Yeah.
I assume ESO's involved in all that new tech.
Yeah, I mean, tech's just transforming the way we capture data. I mean, the old way was pick up every point of interest that you want. You physically have to pick up that point. Now we've got drones and scanners that capture rate are up to 2 million points a second.
Yep.
Which brings new challenges, but it's also exciting, and it really is taking some of that emphasis off the surveyor for what some surveyors call mundane tasks, I guess.
Yeah, like you're even talking about the tiny robots to help you out on site.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, like surveyors always whinged about setting out line marking because they're just walking kilometres and kilometres on newly laid asphalt. Now they can get a robot to do the line marking set out for them, and they can just follow that robot in a car behind them. So they're obviously still in charge of quality and the data management that goes behind it, but it's just one of those mundane tasks of walking 10 kilometres, dashing a line on the edge of a newly laid road.
Yeah, and then go do the same for the next lane.
And then the next lane, and then the next lane. Yeah, you know, for hours on end and days on days. So, yeah.
So I guess over the last decade or so, you would have seen the role of the surveyor change quite a lot.
For sure. The complexity of the data that we're dealing with is getting more and more. The time frames that we're getting delivered, probably speaking specifically about design data for these big infrastructure projects, the time frame in which we're being delivered that data, and then I guess the surveyor is at the coalface having complex data that's delivered late and an expectation for them to be carrying out field work, you know, then and now. So that's pretty challenging for our surveyors. So I guess the big focus that we are concentrating on now is building a good senior data management team that's had the experience in the industry to really make that a bit more of a seamless process for the surveyors, so they don't feel the heat as much in the here and now when they're on site at the coalface.
Yeah, it's tricky for the surveyors too. I guess the finger gets pointed at you if anything essentially goes wrong on site.
It's a tough job. I mean, surveying as an industry is brilliant, but it certainly has its challenges, and that's one of them. Unfortunately, there's a lot of finger pointing, a lot of blame. Yeah. Surveyors are an easy bunch to turn to. You know, we're controlling all of the data on site, and we're responsible for setting out that data and then also picking up the, you know, whatever's being constructed as a conformance or an as-built work is executed. So I think it's easy for people just to turn to the surveyor and, it's the surveyor's fault.
Yeah. What are some of the good things you like about surveying as a profession?
There's so many. I mean, the first thing is, I think when you're young and starting off in the industry, the ability to travel and see the country and the world is pretty phenomenal. I've got to work in some pretty cool places. The ability to mix up field work with office work. Look, if it's 11 degrees outside and it's pouring with rain, an office looks pretty good, doesn't it? But if it's 25 degrees and the blue skies, then, you know, I think a lot of people want to be outside enjoying it.
Yeah. Whenever we run a survey course, it's very weather dependent how many attendees we have coming along.
Oh, for sure.
Or if it's 40 degrees, amazingly, all of a sudden that training looks pretty, looks like a good option.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and Adelaide, certainly, we get some weeks of 40-degree weather. So,
So on the flip side, what do you see as the biggest challenges for a surveyor?
Certainly now is the data management. And look, that's probably where, like, us implementing 12D Synergy has really helped. But it's just how much data, both design data that's coming down from design consultants for the project, but also the data that we're capturing as conformance, as build, existing service pickup, and how that's going back up and distributed through the team. Like, that is the amount of data that's being captured, the complexity of the data that we are capturing, and I guess how quickly people want that data are all stuff we're facing, challenges we're facing. Yeah.
So the data volume, the complexity is increasing, and then the time frames
reducing. It's crazy, isn't it? It's like a perfect storm.
Yeah, and that's probably going to continue into the future too, right?
I think so. I think so. It's not slowing down. Ideally, it's a bit of a dream. Like, we work on a project that everyone is using the same CDE, common data environment. It doesn't matter whether you're the engineering team, you're the survey team, you're the design consultants that are filtering information down. You all work on one platform and sharing data collaboratively. That would be amazing, but it just doesn't happen. Not in our world yet.
Yeah, we've got
Maybe
a dream.
one day.
Yeah, it sounds good.
One
Yeah,
day.
everyone just get into Synergy.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Now, I guess you have been using 12D Synergy for quite a while now.
Yeah.
What have you seen as the biggest benefits of that rollout?
Just streamlining exactly what we're talking about. So reducing the complexity of the data with how we manage it. Specifically what I'm talking about there is just project template structure, setup, so everything is uniform. And with that uniform data, it just gives the surveyor confidence. Like they know where the data is going to be, they know where it's going to live, they know where to put it if they pick something up. The naming conventions are locked, so it's always the same.
Yep.
So they know what they're in for. And look, I think back to some early projects that I worked on, and I was lucky enough to work with 12D straight out of university. But my early projects were one 12D project with every piece of data on that job, whether it be design, whether it be control, whether it be what I was picking up, conformance, and the project just got out of control. And I think that was the workflow for a lot of people, and I think there's probably still people in the industry that sort of have a similar workflow. But what improves it, in our world, I don't think that workflow can actually work. I think it would sink a company if they were trying to do things that way on the scale of projects that we work on now.
Yep.
So they're really, for us, there's really no other way. We need that structure, the procedures, and just especially with a team of 140 people, everyone needs consistency.
Yep.
Consistency and collaboration. I mean, I think they're two pretty key things about business. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think it's really beneficial for those large mega projects you're talking about, or the smaller, or where's it sort of?
Yeah, that's interesting actually. I think early on in the piece, the push for ESO to go to Synergy was probably to deal with the issues that we're having on our big projects. Yep. That was certainly our starting point. Where we've come to now, after lots of years of integration and development, is seeing the benefits on our small jobs. I think every company, every survey company probably still has smaller scale projects as well on the go. But the impact, we're struggling with resources at the moment. I think the whole industry is. There's a shortage of surveyors across Australia. Nobody is immune to it. And so it's just so critical that the surveyors that are working on the projects are working efficiently. And on small projects, the data might not be as big or as complex, but we've got multiple surveyors going in and out of those projects on any given day. And some of those surveyors might not have ever worked on that project before. So if they can go into that project on day one and know exactly where to find the information, because the structure and the systems are all consistent, I think that's brilliant. I think you're just setting up people for success. Yeah.
Yeah, and those smaller projects too have smaller margins to work with. So if you can just bang them out a lot more efficiently, like that's a big benefit as well.
100%. Yeah. And I think the smaller projects are the ones that might trip, surveyors up, because they don't see the complexities, in the data. The complexities aren't there, but that doesn't mean they don't come with challenges, and that you need to be efficient with your data and good with your data management in terms of storing everything that you've done, consistent with your conformance reporting, as-built reporting. So I think there's still challenges even with the smaller projects. Yeah.
So we talked a bit about the resourcing challenges. So what's ESO doing to try and find more staff here to get all this work done?
It's a good question. Our big focus at the moment is working with universities and TAFEs across Australia, really getting people that are studying in early to our business and supporting them through their studies and giving them some real world experience and exposure and getting that development into them early. I think that's a really big focus of our business.
And for South Australia at the moment, what are the education pathways for surveyors?
We're actually going through a really challenging time. Historically, we've always had a university course, which was offering a bachelor degree, and then which was University of South Australia, and then the TAFE pathway offering the diploma. And that was producing sort of a good, well-rounded number of surveyors, graduate surveyors for the market, for the South Australian market.
Do you know how many were graduating each year?
Yeah, somewhere in the order of about 45 or 50, sort of at the peak. And unfortunately, University of South Australia went through a bit of a decline in student numbers. And that led to them dropping the survey degree. So that was a few years ago now, and we've been left in a bit of no man's land for tertiary pathways. We're really lucky that Flinders Uni has picked up the surveying degree in South Australia, which is awesome news. But there's probably just going to be I think it's about a 4 or 5 year skills gap, until we see the next round of graduates, or the first round of graduates out of Flinders Uni, which is in about 2.5 years' time. I think they're just starting second year now.
Okay, so we could be talking about 100 or more surveyors that aren't in the industry just when Adelaide needs surveyors more than ever.
Absolutely.
It's a tragedy.
Yeah, I think TAFE is doing a good job to try and pick up the slack, but they have limited positions as well. So they're doing what they can, but very much looking forward to the Flinders University graduates coming on board. Yeah,
seems like a real challenge for not just South Australia, but all of Australia, of getting people into surveying, construction. It just doesn't seem to be getting enough graduates at a time where the baby boomers are all retiring. So you've got all these people, more work than ever before, and we're probably losing people, not gaining.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and skilled migrant workers are another option, surveyors in other countries. But there's a huge, I think the scale and the complexity of the Australian infrastructure projects is, it's on another level to a lot of other countries out there. And what we see is a big gap. And so it takes a long time to close that gap, both with software, hardware, and just constructability and how we build things in Australia.
And the market's totally different. Like, we've done a lot of work overseas, and other than probably Australia and New Zealand and say Scandinavia, the level and the quality of surveying is beyond everywhere else.
Absolutely.
We've done a lot of work in the UK and the US, and obviously the third world, and it's archaic in a lot of ways, I can say nicely. To sort of come to Australia where everything's high end, it's all robotic instruments, the software we're using is more advanced, the projects are huge, they're more complicated than what they're used to. It would be quite the learning curve for anyone overseas coming here.
I mean, even like a robotic total station in the Australian market is just a given. I think it's an expectation of every surveyor that works here uses a robotic total station. That is certainly not a given in through a lot of countries. I think we're very lucky to be surveyors in Australia. I mean, I always like to look at the surveying industry and I just think about the tech that we get to use, and then compare it to other industries out there. I mean, we are so lucky with the tech that gets put in front of our noses, or it's at our fingertips. And all surveying companies need to do is reach out, find applications for it and grab it, and they can start using it. There's not many industries that really have the tech advancements that surveying's seen in the last 20 years.
Yeah, there's always reports coming out that the construction industry has a real problem with productivity growth, and it's not moving fast enough. But particularly with surveying, you think the last 15, 20 years, it's insane how much technology and how much has changed. A lot of like one-man vans, drones and scanners and UAV, how do you mean it's not moving?
For sure. Look, one of the pieces of tech we use is AR, augmented reality. And so we can load existing services models, we can load design models, and we can walk out, or an engineer can walk out on site and see it in real time. We overlay it in the real world. And that's pretty cool. So automatically you can look at, okay, what's going to clash with existing infrastructure, or where existing services are, without having to have a surveyor on site marking that. And I think trying to eke out those efficiencies in construction. I guess surveyors sort of really helping construction projects find these efficiencies through our tech. It probably lends more to the surveyor being the importance of the surveyor really being responsible for the data, as opposed to maybe delivering some of the more mundane tasks on site. Don't get me wrong. I think surveyors are going to be in the field. We'll look back at this interview, and surveyors will be still in the field 20 years from now, still setting out stuff, still conforming, making sure that things are built correctly and within tolerance. But there's certainly a lot of mundane tasks that I could talk to my team, and I think they'd be happy to get off their shoulders and just be responsible, for the data that's going into them. Yeah.
So I guess we're talking about the recruitment side. I guess the one good thing about Adelaide going through a bit of a boom period is that Melbourne and Sydney seem a lot quieter now. So I imagine a lot of people that flew over there in the boom times might be coming back to Adelaide.
Yeah, we'll happily take them.
Yeah. Okay, so anyone wants to send their CV through? Is there Chris Staak at ESO?
No. Look, I mean, I think the infrastructure industry across the whole of Australia is still in a pretty solid position. So I don't think we can just account for that, but certainly we're going to have to really look at how we deliver these projects across the next 10 years.
So I guess a key part bringing people interstate, or probably even more international, is that skills gap that we were talking about. So does ESO employ a training and development program for people to make sure that they can get upskilled quickly?
Yeah, we've got training and development programs for all new starters, graduates, undergraduates, and migrant workers. The quicker that we can close that gap, the better for the company. It's better for the employee and it's better for the company. So it's a win-win. So we certainly get straight to work with new staff, trying to upskill them as quickly as possible.
And how long do you think it would take for someone, say, coming from overseas, to actually come up to date with all the software and hardware and work processes?
Yeah, it's really case by case, but I think it can be, as short as maybe 2 to 3 months, but certainly as long as 6 months. There's a sort of key. There's a key piece in how much overlap they've had in sort of major infrastructure overseas. If that's missing as well as the software and hardware piece, then it's a long process.
Yeah, we have similar challenges that it takes people quite a while to get used to the customers, the industry, the product. It's quite complicated. So it could take 3 to 6 months before someone's truly productive. And then it becomes, okay, so we've got them on board, we've trained them up. We really need to keep them. And it's taken us 6 months for them to be really productive. The worst thing is if in 6 months later they go somewhere else. What are your strategies around sort of retaining staff for a long term?
I think a lot of it is setting them up for success with what they're delivering on the projects. So if they feel supported, if they feel like they've got the right software at their fingertips and the right support and development behind them, I think that goes a long way to start with. I think there's a whole piece around collaboration and connecting our workforce. The more connected our workforce are, the more easily they leverage and lean on their colleagues when when they have a problem. I think that gives them sort of more confidence on these big projects. So I think definitely collaboration and connection, and then I think just consistency of what we do as a company. I think if we are consistent with the product we're delivering, it goes back to just setting up people for success. It just makes their lives and their jobs certainly easier. I think all those lead into good retention.
I guess a lot of those talking points there are also where synergy comes in. It touches a lot of those. So what would be the key benefits, do you think, from using synergy?
Synergy is a really key piece in that conversation. it may look a little daunting, like to somebody, that hasn't seen it before, but I think within a week, they're familiar with the layout, and certainly within a month, they would find it hard to do things a different way. If you haven't had the exposure to, look, really for us, it's the combo of 12D, the efficiency in the combo of how well 12D model, 12D field, and 12D Synergy work with each other. And if you haven't had that exposure, it's really hard to see the deficiencies maybe in how you're operating. But as soon as you've had the exposure and working with it for a bit, then it becomes hard to see how you could ever go back.
Yeah, look, we certainly benefit from that. It's companies like you that really push people, and then they get really comfortable with 12D Synergy and that 12D stack. Then they go to another business that doesn't have, say, 12D Synergy. Like, oh my God, you guys are mad. You need 12D Synergy today. And then, they'll give their sales rep a call, and all of a sudden we do a demo, and that can lead, that word of mouth, and just like, what are we doing here? Are we going back to emailing data sets to each other and memory sticks around the office?
Yeah.
Like, there's a better way, people.
I'm like, I shudder when I think about, delivering design data from a memory stick to the surveyors. I mean, some of our projects that we work on, like we have 20 or 30 surveyors on the one project. Could you imagine trying to make sure that document control is efficient through all of that whole team? I could give an example of a rail occupation. It's not even that we've got 20 or 30 surveyors working on it. It's that the works are happening 24/7, back-to-back shifts, with a large workforce, with information being collected from the field on day and night, and then information flowing down from design and project throughout the same periods. It is it's a big challenge to manage all of that.
Yeah, it's a lot of data. It's all moving around.
We talked about service strikes before. So, and finger pointing back at survey companies. We want to make sure that the data that we're picking up is being utilised. Now, what's the point of picking up existing services, that a back truck may have potholed or a service locator might have marked out on a site for us if no one's ever going to use it to the point where an excavator comes and does a dig in that area and then hits that service that a surveyor may have picked up, but the data didn't go anywhere, and therefore it wasn't used.
So with 12D Synergy, what would that workflow look like? The surveyor's gone out there, they've picked up that service. So what would then happen?
So for us, the services go into either an existing services model or an as-built services model, and that's a combined model with everything of the job. The real key is then that services model from that master services project, 12D project, is shared across every surveyor in the team. So there's a connection. As soon as it's updated in that master, every surveyor across that whole project, or surveyors that haven't even worked on the project and want to come onto the project, will have the updated data. Okay. I think that's pretty powerful.
So pretty much getting the real live data set, the latest thing that's been picked up. And that could happen on a 4G connection out in the field. You pick it up, upload it, everyone on site gets that copied pretty much instantaneously.
Absolutely. Like all of our tablets have internet connections, 4G SIMs. So it can happen there and then if we wanted to, Yeah,
because a big recurring theme for the surveying industry is having the right information, having it up to date, rather than working on outdated information, and information that was an hour or two old, it can be too old. It needs to be the latest information.
Absolutely. I mean, the pace that these construction projects are moving is pretty phenomenal. They do, like you mentioned it before, they get a bad rap for productivity, but I think if people actually go out on site and have a look at how quickly we can construct something, it is quite impressive. So,
And the reality is a construction site can only move as quickly as the surveyors, right? So every minute that you're saving, the entire project behind you is moving that minute faster. So I don't think people really appreciate that, if a surveyor's holding things up by an hour, like it's everything else that's backed up, or if you can save that time, the amount of time you can save from surveyors.
Joel, if you can tell me how to get across the value of surveyors across the industry, I'll give you a lot of money. I think survey companies, it's so obvious the value that we provide. It's just not quite as obvious across the projects yet. It's not as obvious as what we would like. I think projects are getting better at grasping it and understanding the importance, and it's probably important as this data problem increases, more data moving more quickly. So many times they turn to surveyors, even over engineers that might be responsible for something, and I think that's pretty telling.
Yeah, unfortunately, you see many projects where the survey budget just seems to be an area, we can squeeze that a little bit more, and like, oh God, like it's probably not the place you should be saving money, but it seems to be, very under-resourced area, unfortunately.
Like the survey budget, if you're really going to dig into that, the survey budget is where you can pick up efficiencies across all of the other project packages. I mean, what package has so much involvement across everything else that's happening on site? So yeah, I'm pretty biased, but scrutinising the survey budget doesn't seem like a good idea to me.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
It's a bit maddening, really.
Yeah.
So Chris, I just want to circle back. We were talking about Adelaide, and there's a huge pipeline of work coming in the next 10 years. There's a shortage of surveyors. The university cut their course for sort of 4 or 5 years, so there's a gap of a few hundred surveyors in the industry. So I guess taking off your ESO hat, you're also chair of the Civil Contractors Federation. So I guess what are they doing to sort of solve this pretty big problem?
Yeah, so I chair a committee in the CCF SA, and the committee's Future in Civil. I think the CCF just generally is great at supporting and promoting our industry, but really we've started this committee to just help them reach a little bit further, really attract the next generation of workers that are going to help us over the next 10 years. Obviously, I have a bit of a biased surveyor hat on when I'm in that role, but we get to a lot of the Career Expo events at schools, looking at, I guess, trying to help the kids not go through what I went through, which is just fall into it. And I don't think I touched on it, but I rocked up to O Week at university, and I had I think there was a intro and networking night, and I rolled in, and I thought to myself, well, I better find out what surveying actually is. And so, not very prepared. I just don't think that students, young people should, it should just be left to their own devices or just to fall into an industry. I think they should see all of their options and all of the all of the benefits of working in the surveying or the civil construction industry. And I guess the Future in Civil Committee is just a way to really try and give back and attract some new people into our world. So it's pretty rewarding, pretty challenging at the same time, but it's something I'm very passionate about. I think the industry has given me fantastic opportunities throughout, not just now, but even through my early career. And I want to see other people in Australia get those same opportunities. And that's kind of what it boils down to. Yeah,
I think there's so many different amazing roles in our industry. And I know I went to a pretty good high school, and I think 2 of us went into sort of the engineering construction space. Nearly everyone was either in finance, insurance. I guess these days there's probably more in tech. I guess they're the real sexy industries, and construction sort of gets overlooked. But this is the built environment we're building. It's all the infrastructure, the housing, everything we take for granted in a lot of ways in this world. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. My wife hates it when we drive past infrastructure that we've been involved with, because I point it out every time. And it won't be just once, it'll be the 10 times that we've driven past it in the last month. I'll still point it out.
Yeah.
And I think the piece there is a bit of like, there's a bit of pride. No matter how big your involvement is throughout that project, that infrastructure project, you were still involved with delivering it. And you, for the rest of your life, you're like, well, I can't say for the rest of my life, but I'm still, quite young. But certainly I still feel that pride through the early projects that I worked on, as a 20-year-old. Yeah.
I'm sure we're the same every time we drove to Queensland. It was, my dad laying out every single project. Oh, this is an Abbey Group job. This is that. Like every time, you've heard it 100 times, but there's that pride in his voice.
Yeah.
And then, now I'm doing the same thing to my kids and driving past. Oh yeah, this is the Hexham bypass, guys. This is the final piece of the puzzle. It's like, chill out, Dad. It's just a road. It's like, no, this really impacts our lives.
Yeah. My wife might actually kick me out of the car one day, but it's really rewarding. And so how do we tell young people that? How do we tell them that the career, it's such a fantastic career path and opportunities in our industry. It seems like sitting here talking about it seems like an easy sell, but in reality, it's not. And I think the more people that are involved in the promotion of where we are, the whole construction industry, but also surveying, the better. And so, look, I hope more survey companies get more involved with TAFE and university across Australia, certainly in the years to come.
So what does this pipeline of major works in Adelaide mean for the industry here in South Australia?
It means a lot. I mean, I think we spoke at the start about Adelaide waiting their turn. Well, our turn is here. We've spoken about Torrance and Darlington. Look, the estimated amount of surveys that are required on that project is somewhere in the magnitude of 70 to 100. Simultaneously, we're building a brand new women's and kids hospital. That project is going to take somewhere in the magnitude of 10 to 20 surveyors. There's a tram grade separation project that's going to take somewhere in the magnitude of 20 to 30 surveyors. The government's opening up a Northern Water Project, I should say, up in the Gulf, which is a $5 billion project that is probably going to need 20 or 30 surveyors. There's a significant defence project that might have a large requirement for surveyors. Look, at my back of the envelope calcs is there's probably about 150 engineering surveyors currently at capacity in the Adelaide market. They're all busy. No one's sitting around sitting on their hands. And so this is the challenge. This is the challenge that we face. It's rapid growth. The companies that are here, how do we grow and adapt relatively rapidly? I think survey companies are pretty good at adapting. So I think we'll be looking back 10 years from now and like certainly congratulating ourselves on how we got through the period. But as somebody that's lived in Adelaide my whole life, it's pretty exciting, and like really just look forward to the challenge. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Chris Staak, thank you very much for interviewing with me.
Thanks for having me, Joel. It's been great. Really good. Thank you.
If you've enjoyed the conversation, make sure you follow, subscribe, and share the show with your colleagues. For more insights and resources, visit our website.